The gauntlet has been thrown by Donald Trump. He intends to mass fire the deep state employees within the federal government, whether his enemies like it or not. All the media's attempts to paint DOGE and Elon Musk as on the edge and alone has been tossed out. Now you might be asking, well, how and when and why? Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, in a very telling public fashion, a reporter at the very first cabinet meeting for President Trump and his administration today tried to embarrass Musk publicly, asking him if anyone in the room wasn't thrilled with him for his efforts to dismantle all the deep staters within the government. Now, before Musk could really get into it, Trump took the helm and turned the tables. Take a look at this.
I just wanted to ask you that President Trump put out a Truth Social today saying that everybody in the cabinet was happy with you. I just wondered if you had heard otherwise, and if you had heard anything about members of the cabinet who weren't happy with the way things were going, and if so, what are you doing to address those any dissatisfaction?
What a question.
Elon, let the cabinet speak just for a second. Anybody unhappy with Elon? If you are, we'll throw him out of here.
Ouch.
Anybody unhappy? They have a lot of respect for Elon and that he's doing this, and some disagree a little bit, but I will tell you, for the most part, I think everyone's not only happy, they're thrilled. So go ahead, Elon.
I'm grateful.
And President Trump has put together, I think, the best cabinet ever. Literally. So, and I do not give false praise. This is an incredible group of people. I don't think that such a talented team has actually ever been assembled. I think it's literally the best cabinet that the country has ever had. And I think the company should be incredibly appreciative of the people in this room.
Probably not what the reporter was expecting there. But what do you expect when you're dealing with Donald Trump being in the room? Now, all of this, by the way, is coming on the heels of new news that there is going to be large-scale firings, and they are in the preparation stage now over the next 2 weeks. It is something that is called a reduction in force, which we'll get to in a moment. But I just want to point out that with the federal government making it clear that they are going ahead with even greater mass firings than what we've seen so far, it looks like all the whining and crying and moaning over Elon Musk's roll call were in fact a big deal after all. Now, this is an article from Axios discussing this new news about the White House firings. This is by Emily Peck, and it's titled "White House Orders Agencies to Prepare for Large-Scale Firings." Uh-oh. The White House, Emily writes, is directing federal agencies to prepare for large-scale layoffs, so-called reductions in force, or RIF, according to guidance sent out by the Office of Management and Budget and the Office of Personnel Management on Wednesday, aka today. Why it matters, Axios writes. To date, job cuts in the federal workforce have mostly been affected probationary employees who are relatively easy to fire. IRFs are a more drastic step. Oh no. Agencies were given 2 weeks to make plans for, quote, significant layoffs, meaning pretty big honking cuts here. Now, typically in an RIF, positions are permanently eliminated, meaning they're not just firing someone from a position to fill it later, they are getting rid of many positions entirely. The guidance follows an executive order earlier this month requiring that agency heads prepare large-scale reductions in force. Zooming in, agencies must submit what the administration is calling Phase 1 agency RIF and reorganization plans by March 13th. And Phase 1 implies there will be a Phase 2 and maybe even a Phase 3. For the deep staters. Oh no. Anyway, she writes, agencies should detail the number of full-time employees that they can cut and detail the cost savings the cuts would provide over the next 3 years. The plans should include a significant reduction in full-time positions per the guidance. Agencies should focus on the maximum elimination of functions that are not statutorily mandated while driving the highest quality, most efficient delivery of their statutorily required functions. Meaning we are going to treat this like a business, people. Buckle up. Now, by the numbers, there are about 2.3 million federal employees, not including the Postal Service, and thousands have been recently fired. The guidance doesn't appear to include any percentage target for cuts. There's no need. This is just a Phase 1 mass firing. Let's see. There are exemptions Emily writes, for postal workers, military personnel, political appointees, and positions necessary to meet law enforcement, border security, national security, immigration enforcement, or public safety responsibilities, per the guidance. Any cuts to workers who, quote, provide direct services to citizens, such as Social Security, Medicare, and veterans' health care, should not be implemented without first a review from OMB and OPM, per the document. The rationale, the memo explains, is to consolidate duplicative functions and management layers and to reduce non-critical positions and implement technology that automates routine tasks, meaning get rid of the bloat, get rid of the fat. The document also asks agencies to cut their real property footprint and reduce their budget top line. So essentially what the reduction in force will mean for these federal agencies, my friends, is a methodical, deep, direct cuts, downsizing line by line, worker after worker who doesn't make the cut. The federal agency is full of fat, useless pigs feeding off the government trough, feeding off the American people for far too long, and there are too many of them. Now, sure, among them are good employees. They're doing their jobs the way they're supposed to. But there are far too many who need to be removed, root and stem. This is the way, my friends. This is how you chainsaw out all this government fat. And if what I'm hearing is right, we can expect then massive layoffs to come soon. So despite all that cry and all that moaning from the mainstream media, the Democrat Party and their allies among their corrupt activist judges, after all that, Trump is still going to get his way. Trump has long criticized what he sees as bureaucratic overreach, waste, and inefficiency. This is all about draining the swamp, as he would call it. He's even mentioned that those who did not respond to Elon Musk are on the bubble for getting fired. This is another article from Axios, also a couple of hours ago. This says, Trump, federal employees who didn't respond to Musk email are on firing bubble. Oh no! Federal workers who didn't respond to Elon Musk's request to outline what they did at work are on the bubble, said President Trump during the first cabinet meeting of his second term. Why it matters, Axios writes. Trump's comments came as he was flanked by every one of his confirmed agency heads, including some whose departments explicitly told their federal employees not to respond to Musk's email last week. Musk, who spoke Wednesday before any member of Trump's cabinet, said that he received the president's permission to send the email to federal employees requesting they outline the 5 things they accomplished. Musk said failure to respond to his email would be treated as a resignation. Those million people that haven't responded, though, Elon, they are on the bubble. I wouldn't say that we're thrilled about it. They haven't responded. Now, Trump's comments came just after the White House directed federal agencies to prepare for mass layoffs or reductions in force. And Elon Musk is perfect for the situation because it falls in line for the way that Trump carries his mission here. He loves this whole outsider audit approach. This is classic Trumpism. It's all about disrupting the traditional government operations. He is imposing business-style accountability, whether these screaming bureaucrats like it or not. The reduction in force process is giving his agenda a legal framework now, allowing Trump to target agencies he views as bloated or misaligned with his priorities. And those that didn't respond to the email now have just elevated themselves right up to the top to be looked at, to be analyzed, and to be caught. As I mentioned in yesterday's show, it was a trap. And these idiot federal government agency employees who didn't respond, well, they might just have not responded the way out of a job. And this RIF, by the way, will now set the stage for avoiding potential chaos of arbitrary firings. It is a strategic trim. This is not a random hack aimed at reshaping the federal workforce to reflect his vision. And all these pinhead employees who refused to answer the DOGE-led OPM email, outside of the ones who were ordered not to, should be shaking in their boots. For all the chaos that's erupted, Trump means business here. I mean, how could they not know this was coming? He lived through their corruption in his first term. How many employees were undermining him? How many leaks? It was almost daily for the first couple of years of him in office. Of course he's coming for them. Now that he's back in office, he is going to be aiming at them with a vengeance. So they best be prepared.